Hi friends, today we're going over a really critical piece before you even start your knitting and crochet projects, which is choosing the right yarn and interpreting the yarn label. We'll go over things like dye lot, weight, material, swatching. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple different yarn labels like I mentioned. We have Sweet Snuggles, Premier, a couple Premier yarns, and then a Lion Brand yarn. Let's start with this one. This is the Loops and Threads brand Sweet Snuggles yarn. It is a polyester yarn, 109 yards or 8.8 ounces. And we have the meters and grams as well. We have a project and free pattern QR code. That's great. Probably directs to their website. Checkout barcode. And here we have the bulk of what we're interested in. So this is chalk blue color. It is the dye lot 1263. So a dye lot would be when they're dyeing the yarn to make it a particular color, they would do it in batches to a particular formula, right? And so you want to buy yarn for your project of the same batch. So that if there are any variances in the yarn color or quality, sometimes it can be a little bit, you can tell when they're next to each other, especially the yarns in a different dye lot. And if you have any issues with the yarn, oftentimes the maker will ask you where you purchased it and what the dye lot is if you happen to have the label still. That's super helpful. So dye lot is a great thing to pay attention to. This is a size jumbo yarn, so this is the biggest weight yarn you can get. Compared all the way down, I'll put the chart for comparison from the Craft Yarn Council. It goes all the way from jumbo as the biggest down to a lace weight yarn. It is polyester, like I mentioned. And here we have the swatch gauge information. So if you were to be knitting, you would use a recommended needle size of a 12.5 millimeter, size 17. You would cast on 6 stitches and you would knit for 8 rows to get a 4x4 swatch. So that's the recommended for knitting. And for crocheting, it'd be 11.5 millimeter USP hook. And it is care instructions here. Machine wash warm, do not bleach, dry flat, do not iron, which is pretty typical for polyester yarn. And polyester material, there's different materials, of course, you can get for yarns. I have a cotton one for comparison as well, but oftentimes I'll also knit with acrylic, or you can get bamboo yarn that's really nice, or wool. So there's different mix of material for yarn. And I think that's all for this yarn. Let's move on to the next one. So pulling from the back here, this is by Premier. It is the Premier Basix Chenille Brights brand. And they structured theirs a little bit vertical, it seems. So we've got, this is a super bulky, one step down from the jumbo weight. The yardage is 112, it has the meterage, and then ounces 5.3, and the grams. This is also 100% polyester, though it does look a little bit different in texture comparison. And it feels a little bit different too. This is, they say it's tested and approved. It's not really clear what that means. You'd probably have to go to their website to find more information about that. They say 3 skeins is 1 scarf, so that's helpful. So that'd be using this gauge, which they recommend 8 millimeter or US 11 needles. And same for the hooks, would give you a 4x4 swatch if you cast on 8 stitches, knit for 13 rows, or single crochet 7 and go for 8 rows. That would give you 3 skeins to make a scarf. And actually, looking at this other one, it did not give the crochet count to get the swatch, whereas this one did. So that's a nice detail. I like that about the Premier yarn, actually taking a look. And they have actually a lot of symbols for their care instructions, but the important ones would be machine wash, warm, lay flat to dry. So that's nice. You can machine wash this too. Would not put it in the clothes dryer. And I'd have to look up, I mean, this is do not iron. Probably something about not bleaching there too, I'd imagine. Oh, and this is more tested and approved, so it's tested for some harmful substances. So that's good to know. You'd probably go to their website to find more information, but probably tested to make sure that it's skin safe, especially for some children and babies. Anything for accessories or even cuddly toys, If someone's going to be touching it a lot, maybe you're concerned about chemicals, things like that. So it's good. So let's take a look at the next one. So this one's also by Premier. I just wanted to include it for contrast. So this one looks very different. Just holding them up like that. And this one has more yardage. And let's see. It's lighter, but it's also a 100% polyester. So that's interesting to compare them like that. This one is in the color Candy Apple. Make information, color code, barcode, dye lot 6428. It's nice that they mentioned that you should buy enough of the dye lot, which is true, as we talked about. Care instructions, also super bulky, 8mm for both. So even though you see the weights look a little bit different, it could be this one's just fuzzier. But there is some variability in yarn weights. So even though these are both weight 6 super bulky, they do crochet up a little bit different depending on your project. And they both recommend 8mm needles and hooks. Although the gauge swatching on this one is different. You see that it's knitting 10 stitches cast on, compared to this one is 8 stitches to get your 4x4, and similar for the crochet, 9 single crochet compared to 7 single crochet. So even though, like I mentioned, both weight 6, but different gauge swatching. So that's always good to pay attention to that. And also there are tools that you can buy to get the gauge of your yarn, get the weight of the yarn, if you don't happen to have the yarn label to remind you what weight it would be and you struggle to guess at what the weight could be. I'll put a link. There's some tools you can buy to wrap around the yarn and see how many wraps per inch, or even hold it up against a visual comparison guide to see what weight it could be. So those are helpful. And the last one we have here is the Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. So here's the yarn label for this one. It is 3.5 ounces, 186 yards, so a lot more yardage. It is a medium weight yarn and very tiny, but here is the gauge swatch information. So you're going to use a 4mm hook or needle and cast on 20 stitches or 14 single crochet and go for 28 knit rows or 19 crochet rows respectively to get our 4x4 gauge swatch. And this is a mercerized cotton yarn, which is a treated cotton. It gives it a nice sheen, a little bit of protection to the cotton. And some care instructions again, machine wash and dryable, so that's really nice. Cotton yarn is a little bit more easy to care for sometimes than the Chenille yarns that can shed a little bit. And let's see, match the dye lots. And here we have the color, which is Ecru, which is this nice off-white cream color. And here's the color codes, and this would be, I guess, the dye lot. Looking from there in the barcode. Yeah, so those are all the critical parts of a yarn label that you'll want to pay attention to. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please consider liking and subscribing so you see more of my videos. I do knit and crochet, tips, tutorials, and patterns. So if you like those type of videos, please go ahead and give me a follow. I appreciate it. See you next time.